If you're an orphan child that's somehow listening to Torture Cinema, I'm sorry. And also, Jen is the bad one here. The rest of us are good.
We all know the truth. More connects us than separates us. But in times of crisis, the wise build bridges, while the foolish build barriers.
You raise walls, I destroy them. Let's see who prevails.
Just because something works doesn't mean that it cannot be improved.
I say we take off and nuke the entire site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
Allow my sword to join you in the fight against evil.
The world needs us to chase dreams.
We have to dedicate ourselves each and every single day to this fight because I can't do it alone.
You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then in the name of democracy, let us all unite!
Welcome to Skiffy and Fanny's Torture Cinema, our podcast where we talk about questionable genre movies through the lens of a totally arbitrary like-dislike structure.
I want this Santa with muscles out of here.
Jesus.
It's all downhill from there, folks.
Oh, Christ. I'm Sean.
I'm Alex.
I'm Julia.
And I am Jen.
And today we're here to talk about the movie that our patrons, fuck you all, selected to torture us with this month, Santa with Muscles.
Yay for holiday torture!
I realize we say fuck you all to them every time, but we do actually love you.
I want to take a moment to recognize David Fiander, who reached out to me on Twitter and promised me that he didn't vote for this film, even though he is a patron.
Yes, I did see that. So we don't hate you, David.
We see you and we love you.
No, this is a film. It was put on actual film, so it's a film.
This is a movie that some people got paid to make and presumably put their kids through college or made their house payments, and I think we can all acknowledge that that is a good thing.
And it does have a link to Leonardo DiCaprio.
What?
Okay, you know what? Let's do what we're drinking before we get into the link to Leonardo DiCaprio.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, great. Well, I'll go first, and then we'll just kind of go the same direction. So I am drinking Bemidji Brewing's Chocolate Peanut Butter Stout because I wanted to have something that I liked, and I didn't give a shit if I picked anything that fit this movie because I need joy.
That's fair.
To the point, yep.
And it is, in fact, really, really good.
It does sound delicious.
I mean, it's chocolate and peanut butter. You can never go wrong with that. Alex!
So, because thanks to the vagaries of getting older, I am currently incapable of drinking alcohol. Getting older, don't try it, kids, it sucks. So I'm having a delicious ginger ale, because at least it has ale in the name.
And ginger, which is seasonally appropriate.
Yeah!
Very, yeah. So you get a brownie point for that.
Excellent.
What about you, Julia?
I decided to go full theme with this, and I am drinking out of a reindeer mug with hot chocolate and Fireball whiskey to get that nice warm cinnamon flavor.
Ooh. That sounds so good.
So perfect. It does sound good, yeah.
That is much better than anything that I could possibly think of that would be more thematically appropriate to a film starring Hulk Hogan, so...
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like definitely superior to boozy eggnog, which is what I dreaded you were going to say.
This is 100% not actually for Hulk Hogan and straight up just because it is nice and colorful and warm and comforting, and it is dark at 4 p.m. here and freezing.
Yeah. And it's not crinkle cream.
No.
No. Yes, okay. Moving on from that.
It's on Urban Dictionary. Hi, Jen. What are you drinking?
Yeah, Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Reminder. So I am drinking something very similar to Alex, as a matter of fact, because I was too lazy to go get alcohol today, and I saw something much more delicious, which is ginger beer.
Nice!
Yes! So it has beer in the name.
And it's extra gingery.
Woohoo!
Nice. You can't see us,
yeah,
listeners, because podcasting is not a visual medium, but Jen and I are clinking our cans together.
We are indeed. Clink.
Wonderful. Well, perfect. So now you all know what we are imbibing for this train wreck of a podcast. So we need to go into the synopsis, and I believe Alex has been volunteered again for this role because Alex is rather good at synopsises. So, Alex, what is this movie about?
I was indeed voluntold. So this movie is about Hulk Hogan. So, hey everyone, blast from my childhood, it's Hulk Hogan. And he plays this colossal asshole named Blake.
Because he is one.
Yeah, I mean, and Blake is like, honestly, I got through the entire movie without knowing what Blake is professionally, other than a guy that hawks fitness products and nutrition products.
Isn't that all he is? That's what he is.
Yeah.
That's like telegraphed right up front.
Okay, so I wasn't sure if he was like a movie star that also did that on the side, or if he was one of those fitness gurus that's just like famous for being a fitness guru.
No, I think he's like the face of his product, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's like a jack-off, and he does shenanigans with his crew of buddies and employees. Like, he goes and plays paintball. I think it's supposed to be funny. There's a chase scene with the police, which is problematic on many aspects. And as the police are chasing him because Blake was a giant asshole, he hides in a trash chute. Or actually, first he disguises himself as a Santa Claus, and then he hides in a trash chute. I might be mixing those two things up. And then someone drops a giant statue of Santa Claus down the trash chute on top of him, and the head trauma gives Blake amnesia, and he forgets that he's a total asshole. Enter Lenny, who is... So the logline for the movie says that Lenny is a fiendish elf, which made me hope that he was actually like a Christmas elf, and it was like, oh, we're going to teach him the true meaning of Christmas. No, Lenny is actually just like a grifter who owes a bad man a lot of money, and for reasons he convinces Blake, who is amnesiac, that he is Santa Claus, and then Blake foils a robbery, and he's like, yay, I'm Santa Claus the hero, and a bunch of people in the mall cheer and then help him clean up the mess, because that's totally what people would fucking do. And then he ends up at this orphanage with the world's most obnoxious orphan little girl. And there's an evil man played by Ed Begley Jr. who wants to shut down the orphanage and take its land. And Blake as Santa Claus, Santa with muscles, because pictures got taken of him when he was stopping the robbers and he has muscles. Is like, no, I will stop Ed Begley Jr. And then things get a little confused. I don't even have the excuse that I was drunk because I can't drink right now. And it becomes sort of like a weird fever dream of a movie where Blake, I think the movie wants us to know that he somehow learns the true meaning of Christmas. And there's also this weird thing where the church that the orphanage is in, its windows glow for reasons when the obnoxious little girl sings. And then he recovers his memories, but he decides that the orphans are his family, and he's gonna go save them from Ed Begley Jr., who then is revealed was like his foster brother, because Blake is also an orphan suddenly, who was at the same orphanage that we never mentioned before. And he defeats Ed Begley Jr., and the orphanage is saved. The end.
I feel like you're missing a large portion of this, and I have to call this out because, like, the whole thing that you're missing here is that Ed Begley's character is like a weird germaphobe who does doctor experiments on people and has a sidekick who seems to actually be the supervillain that does doctor sidekick experiments on people. And then there's also like a supervillain team, including a woman who has electric zap powers. And eventually, like, the movie starts with Hulk Hogan doing a big action sequence where he fights off a bunch of people, but we learn that those are actually his staff, and he just makes them enact action sequences with him for his amusement every day. They're, like, actually his chef and such.
So I actually have something I can say about that, but I will save it for the dislikes.
But, like, in the end of the movie, in the climactic bit at the end, he has to face off against all of Abby Frost's supervillain team, and it like fight them all off, but it's for real. So I guess they're trying for parody there. But like the weirdness of that supervillain team, I feel like we have to mention that in the summary.
Yeah, because
I mean, so the supervillain team, like you've got Ed Begley Jr. is, as you said, the germaphobe, and there's the weird doctor guy, and then the supervillain team is basically a supervillain team of evil scientists that I'm actually not going to mention any further because that is my light.
Oh, got it. Okay.
And I do not want to ruin my only light.
Wow.
Okay, and like also everybody wants the orphanage because it's sitting on top of a vault, and underneath the vault are magic gems.
Yep, magic crystals that also at one point can be used similar to lightsabers in a giant climactic battle.
So the magic crystals are the reason the church's windows glow, because apparently the windows are made out of the magic crystals.
Right, and eventually, like, the germaphobe villain wants to get all of the magic crystals so that he can have even more money, because he already has all the money, but he just wants all of it. And his plan is to make the 3 children left at the orphanage, one of whom is Mila Kunis.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Mine the gems for him.
Because they're dangerous and can explode.
Is that really the thing? Man, this movie.
Yep.
Well, it's too dangerous for him to do because he might get hurt.
Yeah, so he wants a team of 3 children. He's not even, like, it's just 3 children. It's not even anybody trained in extracting gems or any...
I think they're just conveniently there, so he's like, you guys get to be my slaves in the magic crystal place.
There are adults who work in the orphanage, and there's no reason they couldn't mine gems with them.
You know, adults just cause too much trouble, and, you know, let's be real. His own geologist is terrible at being a geologist.
There's actually a reason, if I can say it.
Oh, is there?
Yes. I'm not saying it's a good reason.
Wait, you paid attention to this movie well enough to figure out that there was a reason?
You guys are the ones that are bitching at me about not making a good enough synopsis, so I'm just saying.
Go for it.
So, the reason he's gonna make the kids mine the gems is because he's like, yo kids, give up your friend, the Santa with muscles. And they're like, no, we're not gonna help you. And he's like, fine, you little bitches, mine my gems and die underground.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's the whole thing behind it.
That's valid.
But he gives them helmets. Like, he has safety equipment all ready to go for them.
He's a very considerate villain.
I mean, that's not suitable PPE for a mining excursion.
Really, I think what this comes down to is that this movie starts as one movie and then becomes like 8 different movies that all are borrowing.
Remember that part where I sort of yada-yada'd it by saying it becomes a weird fever dream of a movie?
Yeah,
that was
the yada-yada. Okay, good. Yeah.
There's a lot of yada-yada.
It's the entire movie.
Because it's a lot of different cliches in here.
Oh yeah. So
yeah.
many. Shall we get to our
likes?
Likes?
We're gonna start with likes because this movie does not deserve to start with dislikes. To be fair, we almost always start with likes, so yeah. So let's start with likes, and I guess I will go first.
Go for it.
So I have started with a like that is not legitimate in the slightest, and I don't give 2 shits. And that is that Chris Hicks, who was writing for Deseret News when he unfortunately reviewed Santa with Muscles, compared this film to Jingle All the Way, which is another film that many people have covered on shows similar to this one. And he said of Hulk Hogan, and I quote, Hulk Hogan makes Arnold Schwarzenegger seem like Laurence Olivier. And that is possibly one of the most stellar burns I have ever heard.
That is a sick burn, as the youth say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that
is.
And
so I'll attach to this the fact that Hulk Hogan is honestly really fucking awful in this movie. His acting is some of the most ham-fisted acting we've seen for this. He over-enunciates almost everything and over-emotes everything. Like, every word has to be, like, on a different tone, because he's constantly going up and down and all over the place. And it drove me nuts watching him desperately try to sound like he was natural, saying things that actually the children seem to have no difficulty with. In fact, the children get more complicated lines than Hulk Hogan does, which I think says something about Hulk Hogan's acting abilities, which is really sad because we now live in a kind of a glory era of wrestlers who turned into actors. We have John Cena and The Rock, and I would say the latter of those is probably the superior of the two. And it's just really painful to watch Hulk Hogan act in this movie. And I think largely because he's not good. And also because his entire character makes no sense almost at any point.
Yeah. I mean, I will say if you took Hulk Hogan and, like, combined him with the police dude from Krampus the Reckoning and then, like, averaged them out, you would have someone who actually sounded like a human being.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But at least now I can say with confidence that Arnold Schwarzenegger is the Laurence Olivier of the big muscled actors. So.
The big muscled actors in bad Christmas movies.
In bad Christmas movies, indeed. So that's my like. It's a really simple like, but it makes me great. I will also know that that there are other great reviews, such as Marianne Johansson of Flick Philosopher, who said, "Believe me, it's dumber than it sounds."
That is true. It actually, like, the logline does not sound as terrible as the movie is.
And it's a thing that happens. Yeah, and I will say also, Mila Kunis was asked about this film and said to GQ magazine, quote, "I was too young to fully understand the importance of working with Hulk Hogan. I just thought he was this huge man." While comparing the film to American Psycho 2, in which he co-starred with William Shatner. So.
Wait, you know what? I'm not going to say anything else about that. No comment. I'm just pretty sure that there is something very damning about Mila Kunis in that statement.
Yeah, well, there's many, many things that are a problem. But I did mention earlier that this had a connection to The Wolf of Wall Street, and then I will shut up when I make this connection.
Oh, yeah, no, I know that connection. It's wild.
Yeah, and it is that the executive producer, or one of them, for this film was Jordan Belfort, who Leonardo DiCaprio played in The Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, like the literal Wolf of Wall Street executive produced this movie. Not Leonardo DiCaprio, not someone connected to that movie, but the person that movie was based on was the executive producer of Santa with Muscles.
Yeah. It's kind of bonkers.
Dang.
And fun fact, Jordan Belfort and Mila Kunis and Don Stark all help us make many connections to That 70s Show, because both Don Stark and Mila Kunis were in That 70s Show. Don Stark, who plays Lenny the Elf, was Donna's father in That 70s Show.
Oh, yeah,
and
he was!
Jordan Belfort went to jail, and his cellmate was Tommy Chong, who was another That 70s Show star. So there is many an interesting connection.
Wow. It just gets all kinds of better.
So, like, you know how there's, like, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon? I feel like in this we have, like, 7 first degrees of That 70s Show.
Yeah. It's kind of impressive. It's great.
So odd.
But now, I will now cede my time to Alex, because that is definitely all I have to say about my like.
Alright, so my like is actually, as I mentioned before, to do with the supervillain team. That is kind of like, it is sort of like the low-rent supervillain team-up where the lady with the electricity, I think she's, like, supposed to be an engineer, and there's an evil doctor, and then I don't remember what the hell the third guy was.
It's like an evil carpenter electrician. But there's, like, one guy with he's always got, like, a hammer or a chainsaw or a screwdriver or a drill.
I don't know, it was some kind of science. I'm not sure what was going on there.
Yeah, that there's the guy, the smelling guy.
Right, who's Canadian. We had to be told he was Canadian for some reason.
So there's Dr. Vial. Vial is the smellologist. He's a biologist of some variety.
Yeah.
Dr. Watt, who's the
electric
lady, obviously. And then there's the main evil Dr. Blight, who's like a physician. And then there's Alex's like.
Yes. So it's Dr. Flint, the evil geologist.
Oh, of course it is.
Played by Kevin West, which is not really of any major significance. I can assure you that I don't think Kevin West has ever actually been in anything good. I mean, if nothing else, when you look at his bio, and IMDb is like, he is an actor known for Junior. And then list that before Gone in 60 Seconds. And then Super Mario Brothers. That kind of tells you the level he's on.
Wait, what was he in Super Mario Brothers?
Devo Controller? I don't know.
I just hope that has something to actually do with Devo.
I might even pronounce that wrong. Anyway, so what I like about Dr. Flint is not actually anything to do with Dr. Flint as he was on screen, but it was the very fact that they were like, we're going to have a supervillain team up of scientists. And someone, you know, as they lay on the carpet after snorting many lines of cocaine.
So many lines.
Remembered that geology is a science. And that actually made me feel really good as a geologist. Because let me tell you, when it comes to, like, movie villains especially, you don't get a lot of evil geologists. It's all like the fucking biologists, because they're gonna make a superbug, or bring back dinosaurs, or whatever. Everyone's obsessed with that, and everyone forgets about geologists, and this movie remembered us. I also will say that I was very charmed by the fact that as a movie geologist, he wasn't wearing a white lab coat. I make no claims about what he was actually wearing, which was completely nonsensical, because I don't know why one would wear a pith helmet to do geology. But he wasn't wearing a white lab coat, and I really enjoyed that. And actually, okay, wait, I can add one other slight thing to it. The bullshit with the magic crystals. So they actually had, like, a sort of geological thing, right? Mm-hmm. And again, I think this involved them snorting many lines of cocaine. Because they did actually start with a kernel of an actual real geological phenomenon that is kind of cool and interesting. Which is that quartz has piezoelectric qualities where if you twist it, it creates an electrical current. Which is why you have quartz crystals that power wristwatches. And so that's like a cool thing. And then all the rest, like the little girl singing at it and the crystals exploding, is total cocaine-fueled bullshit. But, you know, they started from, like, a not terrible place. And I can enjoy that and ignore, for the purposes of this being alike, where it went from there.
I learned something new today.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Alex.
You're welcome, citizens.
Knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe!
Now just imagine Blake saying that.
I imagine he would say, knowing's half the battle, brother. Because he always says brother. That's what Hulk Hogan always says. He always says brother.
I hate you for that.
My Hulk Hogan's rusty, sorry.
I don't think he would care unless there was a rule involved.
Right, rule 346. Knowledge is half the battle, brother.
Yeah.
These are the scientists' rules. Geology is a science. Rule number 3.
Remember it, or else.
He's got so many fucking rules. Is that anyone's dislike?
I just want to say that we are actually delivering those lines with more depth of nuance and character than any time he delivered a line.
It's, yeah.
Yes, you are.
Anytime anybody delivered a line, really, but, you know, who's counting?
Except Mila Kunis, who I think really came to this thinking she was getting a legit acting gig. She does put a decent performance in with the handful of lines she gets.
On what planet?
Come on, her performance is like, if you compare it to fucking Hulk Hogan in this film.
Or, I mean, you get, what's his butt who was playing Lenny. He's doing his best Danny DeVito. I mean, it was more like if Danny DeVito and Joe Pesci had a gay love child. That's what he was trying to be.
Oh, Christ. Yeah, Lenny is Did anyone bring up, is anyone going to talk about the fact that the ATM machines are apparently way more advanced?
Okay, first off, it's an ATM and not an ATM machine. Shame on you for saying that, Sean. And second, we're still in like, so Jen and Julia still need to go.
Okay. Well, anyway, I just want to know that we're going to talk about the ATM machine.
Are you going to put your PIN number into the ATM machine?
Yes, I always do that.
Yes. Sean is going to put his personal PIN identification number in so that he can be identified and use it as his ID. And then he's going to withdraw like $170 trillion or something like that.
Oh my God, right?
Drunk on hot cocoa, ginger ale, and ginger beer over here, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between.
Except me, I got legit beer.
All right, Julia.
All right. I mean, I posted on Twitter a video clip that is like 1 second long of what I claim is the best moment in the movie, which is when Clayton, played by Garrett Morris, just rolls his eyes like so hard. He does this after, at the end, Hulk Hogan has come to the orphanage to try to save everybody because he knows that the supervillains are trying to like wreck everything and kidnap them. And his like way of helping is to like knock the door in. This is the orphanage that like they live in. So damaging it is damaging their home. And he just like bangs the door down and is like, "I'm here to rescue you." And Clayton's like, "You could have knocked?" Because they were just sitting in that room. They could have gotten up and answered the door, but he had to break it down. And then he like hugs the woman who runs the orphanage, and Clayton just rolls his eyes the hardest ever. And I feel like Clayton, Jen said this on Twitter, is playing the role of the audience in this movie and just being like, why am I even here? What is my life?
Yeah.
So he has good reactions all the way through, but that's not actually what I'm going to use as my like. I did say on Twitter that was the best moment in the movie, and I think I stand by that. But my like, for the purposes of this torture cinema, is I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's that this movie fully commits to being a movie for kids starring a wrestler.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is. That's what it wants to be. It never tries to be anything other than that. And I think that if I were like 5 or 6, maybe 7, and I saw this movie, it's got kids who are close to my age. It's got a big wrestler who's also friendly and Santa Claus maybe, but not really, but whatever. And there are action sequences that are not too scary, and sometimes the kids get to do things and they get to feel like they're teaming up with the wrestler who is their friend, and everybody wins in the end. It's also got a bunch of really ridiculously hokey lines, like they never stop. They start at the very beginning when like the first time you see Hulk Hogan knock someone down, it's someone like in his garden by the rose bushes, and Hulk Hogan's like, "Never stop and smell the roses."
Yeah.
And then later, like everything from "I want this Santa with muscles out of here" to "Santa, you slay me."
Oh my God.
I just want to die.
I hate
Why
you
would
right
that?
now, Julia. I hate you.
Like, they're terrible. They're relentlessly terrible. But they're terrible in a way that is very, like, WWE.
I think people who like WWE would be insulted by this, but maybe not. I don't know. I'm not actually a wrestling fan, so...
I mean, I'm not saying it's a good movie, but I am saying if I had been a child who was, like, the same age as the child playing the main little blonde girl, I would probably have enjoyed this movie because it isn't scary. It has action. All the action is kind of funny. It's not too hard. It's not too gory. No violence has consequences. There are like outlandishly bad guys, but you know they're going to be defeated. So as a kids movie for kids, that is also a wrestler movie, it does what it sets out to do.
I think that's fair.
That is all completely fair. And you have completely destroyed the unprofessionality of this podcast, Julia. And I don't appreciate it.
Well, you know, while I was like watching, I was live tweeting it while I watched it, and I was just like, what even is this? And Marguerite Kenner, who is one of the people that runs all the Escape Artists podcasts, was like, I really hope you're drinking strong beverages right now. And I was like, nope, I'm 100% sober because I need to have full cinematic alertness so that I can analyze this properly, because that's the quality we give to our people.
It's not, though. Stop.
That's the quality I bring to this show.
Well, you can't see me now, but I am definitely shaking my head. But I think it's worth pointing out also that you could watch this movie and actually wonder if you might have accidentally had alcohol or some other substance, because this film gets fucking weird.
Many lines of cocaine.
Like, there are movies in the history of torture cinema where, like, multiple people watching it have fallen asleep for several minutes and woken up and been like, I think I fell asleep for several minutes, but I'm not actually sure what happened, and I don't know that it matters. In this movie, you could fall asleep for several minutes, wake up, and be like, everything is completely bizarre, and I don't know what happened, but if you rewatched it, then, like, you'd still feel that way. It's just that 5 billion other things would have happened in the meantime.
Yeah, and those things that happened didn't actually matter anyway, so why bother watching them?
Nothing matters to the story, and nothing makes any sense. Like, there's literally a part where they throw salad oil out the back of a truck, like a bottle of salad dressing's worth, to make the police cars slide.
His salad dressing with his face on it.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but I'm just like, I just want you to think about, like, you're being chased by a car and you're in a car on a road and you dump out 1 bottle's worth of salad dressing and that makes the car behind you slip all over the road.
Look, that chef was deadly.
He even says this is like 0 fat salad dressing with no cholesterol, so it's not really gonna have oily viscosity.
It won't, you're right. It'll lack all the oil.
It's like gotta be mostly water. I don't know what he thinks is gonna happen there.
Jesus, this film. I think a lot about, like, we've covered films that from, like, remember when we watched Zardoz, like, long time ago?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And that film, straight up, the director, writer, whatever role he took, said that when he made the film, he was high on some shit. 100%. And I feel like this film, and when we watched Maximum Overdrive, that those were films where, like, people thought we could go back to the 70s and took lots and lots of drugs to make films, but the result are films that don't make sense in an interesting way. They just become incoherent, garbled nonsense. And there isn't intelligence behind it. It's just like if you've ever been, some of you have been around, but if you've ever been around, like, a bunch of people who got, like, really, really, really high on marijuana, and they just start rambling nonsense, and you're just kind of like, you're the sober one in the room, and you just kind of go with it, because you don't know what they're saying. They're talking about something, but, like, no 2 sentences connect. There are no transitions. It's just, like, 18 different things happening at once. That's this film.
That is this film, and yet also it has a really, like, when I was talking earlier about there being parody, like, in the beginning he fights off his own staff, in the end he fights off a team of actual supervillains, and his training fighting off his own staff helped. There's other bits like that, like in the beginning he hides in a trash chute and someone drops a giant Santa on him in the trash, and that's how he, like, becomes his Santa alter ego.
He becomes the trash
and
Santa.
And then when he actually transforms back into Blake Thorne, no longer Santa, it's because he, like, gets thrown off of the top of the church in a fight with an evil guy who is, like, hitting him with Christmas decorations, starting with an oversized candy cane and eventually, like, a Santa Claus, and he falls into a garbage truck.
The best part is he's already defeated Dr. whatever the fuck his name is, and the Santa accidentally pushes him off.
Ah, right. Okay.
The tower. Because it's like a rotating Santa.
Sure. But the point is, like, he both times gets hit by a Santa and then is in the trash. Because when he lands in the back of a garbage truck.
Aren't they clever?
And he lands in the back of a garbage truck covered, like, full of his own health product containers. And he wakes up in his own bed because the garbage man recognized him from the container that was next to his head and took him to his mansion, which I guess everybody knows that he lives in. I don't know. But, like, this is definitely deliberate cinematic choice.
I I hate that. I hate that so much.
Honestly, one of the things that I like about it is that this movie seems to believe wholeheartedly that one of the natural places that Hulk Hogan belongs is in the trash.
And that they're not wrong. So,
Well, given who he has become.
He's always been like that. Let's be honest with ourselves.
Well, okay, let me rephrase that. Once it became impossible for people to ignore because it became very public.
Right. Very true.
And for those that don't know, Hulk Hogan's a bit racist. And by a bit racist, I mean more racist than the normal person. By like 10 degrees.
Yes. At least. All right, my turn. I like the fact that the evening that we did the Discord live chat, I was late.
Oh, you didn't watch the last 10 minutes. You didn't watch those first 10 minutes. You bastard. I hate you.
And I was there 10 minutes late, approximately. And they hadn't waited for me because they're very
No, because people. You didn't tell me to wait. I hate you.
And you know, I asked really nicely for them to wait and everything.
Bullshit. I have receipts.
And so I showed up, and they had already watched the first 10 minutes of the movie, and so I didn't have to watch the first 10 minutes of the movie, and I never went back and watched the first 10 minutes of the movie, and I regret nothing!
I just want to note, Jen, that when I wasn't able to finish watching Sphere, because I didn't realize how long the movie was, so I was missing, like, the last 20 to 30 minutes, I went and I finished it because I believe in solidarity.
Oh, well, you're a very good student, Alex, and I'm very happy for you. I will give you, I don't know, a sticker for being awesome.
It's okay, Jen. You didn't really miss anything. All you need to do is go watch the first 10 minutes of a Pink Panther movie, and you'll see it done much better.
True. But I gotta add to Alex's story here, which is that the film that Alex and I were on with Paul, you may recall, was Stan Helsing, and poor Paul watched half of a completely different movie before he realized he had watched a different movie than Stan Helsing.
Oh, yeah. Poor Paul.
And then a trooper, because Paul is dedicated and actually has respect, decided
Paul
to watch the entire
stickers.
movie of Stan Helsing instead of just the latter half. So
yeah, 2 whole stickers for Paul. Just one for Alex, though.
I just have to say that this is a travesty because you don't understand how bad the cold open of this movie was.
Oh God, it's so terrible.
And I have to tell you that I have it queued up, and I'm just going to play it right now into the microphone so everybody can hear what the little girl writes to Santa Claus.
No.
Dear Santa, how are you? I'm not doing so well. There's this really, really bad man named Ebner Frost who lives up on the hill. He's got these weird people working for him, and I think they're going to do something really bad this Christmas.
Have I mentioned how much I hate that little girl?
The letter, I just played the opening before the title credits that say Santa with muscles come up. The letter goes on for another 5 minutes detailing
You're kidding
what
me.
Abner Frost and his friends are doing and how her orphanage and her town are in trouble, and Santa Claus, can you fix that? Now, she doesn't say who she is, whether she's been naughty or nice, what she wants for Christmas, just there are some bad men doing bad things. I don't know how she knows any of that.
So I also must share that when we had the horrible cold open with the terrible child reading her letter out loud, it made me very confused in the next scene because for a reasonable amount of time, I thought that Hulk Hogan was the bad man she was talking about.
Right?
Right, and I feel like that is an intentional fake out.
Yeah, it was weird.
I think you're supposed to think Hulk Hogan is bad at the beginning because he's stalking the premises of his house with army fatigues.
Well, and I mean, then he gets into a chase with the police for absolutely no reason.
Yeah, and he is just a bad man. He there's this weird A Christmas Carol thing going on where he's sort of Ebenezer Scrooge, and he yells at his staff that they're not allowed to have any breaks. And they're not allowed to have Christmas off and don't expect any Christmas bonuses or anything like that. And then, like, when one of the higher-up ones asks him about something, he's like, no, don't give them anything. If you give them a little, they'll expect more.
Yeah.
No, he's a terrible person. And I got that just in the 1 minute after 10 minutes that I watched. I literally didn't need the first 10 minutes, but thank you for sharing with me. I appreciate it,
you
guys.
really needed to understand how this starts with, like, the worst letter to Santa, read in, like, the glurgiest child voice ever.
Yeah.
That is a good adjective for it. That is perfect, and that is the word I've been searching for since I saw this movie.
Dear Santa, there are some bad men.
So since we're about to get to dislikes, I'm just gonna say up front, this movie almost managed to make me hate Christmas, orphans, people in general.
Oh, it definitely made me hate orphans.
I fucking hate orphans. I like 100%. Orphans are the fucking worst, especially in this movie.
I still like orphans, thank you.
Hey, listeners, if you're an orphan, like, we don't all hate you. That can just
we don't actually hate you. You're fine.
If you're an orphan over the age of whatever that horrible little demonic child was, you're fine.
If you're an orphan child that's somehow listening to Torture Cinema, I'm sorry. And also, Jen is the bad one here.
Right.
The rest of us are good.
I am always the bad one. This is true. Let me be more specific. I hate orphans in movies. They are the fucking worst. Especially these 3 adorable children that are somehow still fucking awful because they're adorable.
Jen.
Yes. So, and I hated nice people. Like, I just hated everything that existed in this film by the end of this film.
Even Savick?
Yes! I didn't even fucking watch that show! I hate her! She's awful!
Fuck.
Why did she accept this role? Oh my god! I mean, I know, bills, money. Okay, calm down. Shh. Whoo. Okay, bring it in.
Well, so I just, before we move on to dislikes, I just want to note that everyone on this podcast has less respect for Jen now.
You didn't have any respect for me anyway.
To be fair, we didn't have a lot of respect for you to begin with, but, like, now we're at particularly record low levels because you couldn't even bother to finish 10 minutes of this movie. You absolute monster. You destroyed the Christmas spirit, the holiday spirit. This is you.
This movie destroyed it!
No, it's all on you. If Santa doesn't deliver presents, it's because of Jen.
Okay, that's fair. Santa isn't real, boys and girls.
Oh, come on, Jen.
Oh, you definitely don't listen to Jen. Now you're being just like Blake. Do you want to be like Blake? No, you don't.
All right, why don't we do dislikes now?
I do want to say, just like noting a random thing, and that is that the little girl that we're all complaining about has been the voice of Ducky in all the Land Before Time movies that have come out since 1997.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Not the original Ducky, just every Ducky since then. And by the way, oh my god, why are they still making Land Before Time movies?
They are still, like, the last one was like 2017 or something.
What is up with that?
Because we live in a godless universe of pain.
But yes, this small child has been Ducky for the last, like, 22 years.
What if she's a grown-ass adult and she still sounds like that? Oh, God.
Wait, are you suggesting that she stayed a small child? She has not grown up?
So many lines of cocaine, Sean!
I mean, the small child frozen in time with the glow crystals that we saw at Santa with Muscles has been the voice of Ducky. I believe this was her first movie because she gets credited in the opening as introducing. Like, she's the last person credited, and it's introducing Aria Nicole Curzon or Noelle or whatever her name is.
Wow.
Oh, she even has a Christmas as her middle name?
Yeah.
I think so. I think it's Aria Noelle, Noelle, but
I'm just saying that cocaine is a known thing that stunts your growth.
Oh my god! And now we're suggesting that a child started cocaine because of Hulk Hogan.
Wouldn't you if you'd been in this movie?
Okay, think we've all sunk down a level. Okay, who's first on the dislikes?
It's me. Of course it's me. So there's many things to not like about this movie. I'm going to say that I used to have a dislike, and then I heard Jen speak, and I now have a new dislike, which is that Jen did not finish this movie in solidarity with the rest of us. So we all had to suffer through 10 extra minutes of Hulk Hogan desperately trying to act. And Jen not following in the traditions of holiday spirit and respect for others and respect for friends, decided to not finish this movie. And I find that to be one of the most offensive things about this year, if not for the fact that we lived in this fucking era of all times. That would possibly be the most offensive thing of all time. But unfortunately, we live in this time, so you get that benefit, Jen. You bastard. I hate you.
I feel like you belittled everything offensive that has happened this decade. But, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, but in any case, my actual real dislike would be that the entire premise of this movie pisses me off, largely because by the end of it, so we talked about earlier, there's the opening scene where he, fights his staff for some whatever fucking reason, right? And he criticizes them and makes them learn.
Pink Panther.
Yeah, he makes them learn 300 something fucking rules and all of this bullshit. And then he gets to the end and he has his supposed, and I'm using scare quotes, his realization that about the Christmas spirit or whatever bullshit that is, right? And then he just elicits the help of his staff. But at no point does he have at least that moment where he looks to his staff and go, I've actually treated you all like shit this entire time, and I'm really sorry about that. Could we actually use these skills we've been using for something actually good? And also, I'm gonna fucking give you all a raise because I've treated you like shit. And at no point does he do that. And it actually annoyed the shit out of me because we're supposed to care about this guy, learning to not be a shithead. But in the end, he's just a shithead. He didn't give a shit about any of the people.
His employees are diehard loyalists.
That's just the help. We don't worry about them.
I do.
They're not orphans. They're just the hired help.
Yeah, I do think it is pretty amazing that he's yeah, these guys are just the help, but the orphans that I hung out with for 48 fucking hours are my family.
It's so, it's infuriating. I have never hated a character more, I think, than this film, because there's nothing redeemable about him. It's just nothing.
Yeah. There's so much wrong with this film. Anyway.
It starts with Dear Santa, and then it just goes through the end. Literally everything in between is the worst thing about this movie.
Yeah.
Oh, God, it's so frustrating. So anyway, what about you, Alex?
So, I want to read to you something I wrote in my notes, which is, I think whoever wrote this movie didn't have any ideas, so they took drugs instead.
Oh, I can actually answer that for you, which is that the original writer of this got so mad that they constantly changed his script that he sued to have his name removed.
I feel like that happens a lot with people who have been on cocaine, clearly, while making movies.
Yeah, but I mean, so the problem is, it's kind of difficult for me to come up with a very specific and concise dislike because the entire movie is sort of an incoherent mess. In kind of the same vein that, say, Stan Helsing was an incoherent mess, where they were just well, this would be kind of funny, so we'll do that, and then just keep doing it because we don't actually have any ideas. I will note that I am particularly annoyed about the scene at the beginning where his staff is attacking him, because I know I've bitched about that several times, where it's a ripoff of the Pink Panther. But I'm not joking, because at the beginning of every fucking Pink Panther movie, Inspector Clouseau's, it's Butler or whatever, Kato, attacks him, and they have a little fight scene, and then it's I managed to fight you off. Okay, we're good. It's training. And then the rest of the movie starts. But, that's actually a thing. And that was happening, decades before this movie was made. So it's a total ripoff. I mean, basically, it has no original ideas. And I find it annoying.
No. Not one.
And so I guess that'll be my dislike, because it's hard for me to come up with a really good, unified, concise dislike, because it's just, I mean, I guess it's written in that, the sense that I'm sure there was a script, maybe?
I see no evidence of a script.
Well, yeah.
There was a
there
script.
must have been some kind of writing, because they had, like, the cue cards they had to hold up for Hulk Hogan.
Wait, did they actually have to do that, or are you just assuming?
I'm just making that up.
Oh, because I 100%
You're not the only one who gets
it.
to make things up on this podcast, Sean.
Except Julia, who's bringing us down an entire peg by not making things up. Julia.
What are you doing? It's like you don't take this seriously.
So, anyway, that is my dislike, is that it's just incoherent. It's a fever dream. It's, I can't even come up with anything coherent to complain about because it was so dislikable.
I mean, the fact that the Ebenezer Frost, or whatever his name is, like, has people cover his bushes in plastic because he's a germaphobe, and then supposedly has, like, germ spray spraying up in his own garden, is, like, one of those totally nonsensical, what the fuck is going on, even, things that happens in this movie. Why is that there?
I mean, it's like they were trying to make him a cartoon.
Yeah!
But with live action people, so it doesn't work.
No, not even a little. At all. It's so bad.
I mean, the horrible Michael Bay Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles does a better job of translating a cartoon into a, you know, live action thing, and I do not say that lightly because that movie is the stuff of nightmares.
Good to know. I'll be avoiding that. Whew. All right, Julia.
All right. So, yesterday I was washing the dishes, and as I was finishing, I was washing one of our heavier knives, and it flipped out of my hand and landed on my finger and flayed me right down to the bone.
Oh no!
And I had to go to urgent care, and now my finger is in a splint. They prodded it and poked it, and then they glued it together. Thankfully, it was possible I talked them out of having to, like, do a lidocaine shot into my hand, because I really didn't want to have to deal with having the burning lidocaine shot and then the numbness and stitches. So I managed to talk them into gluing it, but now I have to have my hand, like, I have to have my finger immobilized for the next few days so that I don't bend that knuckle and accidentally tear the glue flap open, thus exposing my bone.
Oh my god.
And yet all of that was better than this movie?
It was a terrible, terrible ordeal. And I think watching this movie was about on par with that.
Oh my. Watching this movie is like dealing with the American healthcare system.
No, actually, it's not quite as bad. I will say, like, horribly, I think I did enjoy is a strong word, but tolerate this movie a little bit better than I've tolerated some of the very worst offenders of torture cinema. I think it's at least as good, if not a little bit better, than is it the Avengers that we watched?
Oh, yeah.
From 1998?
Yeah, that would be the Avengers.
Eddie Izzard.
Yep.
That one, yeah. I feel like that one is maybe on par with how bad this movie is. But I think neither of them made me as angry as the Transformers movies, because it's just dumb. But somebody on Twitter was like, I think I said, like, I'm 8 minutes in and my what the fuck factor is like 3,000 times higher than before. And somebody was like, so you recommend this movie? And I was like, that's a hard question, because, like, I can see certain people I would probably recommend it to if they really, really like bad wrestling movies. But no, I don't. Like, it's... I watched Troll 2 for another podcast that I'm on, because I started a podcast called This Is Why We're Like This, where we watch weird movies that people saw as children and then talk about, like, what we think of them now that we're all adults. And one of our guests suggested Troll 2. And that movie is just, like, infamously one of the worst movies ever.
Oh my god!
It's amazing. Like, we all three of us watched that movie, and we came out of the podcast being like, you know what? like it's bad and we kind of want to show it to every adult we know. No kids, because it's really not a good movie to show kids, but all the adults. And this movie, no, I don't ever want to have to sit through it again. I don't want to have to show it to adults. It's just, it's not as boring or as bad as some of the other movies that we've had to watch, but it is relentlessly bad and not really fun.
I think that's where you nailed it right there. It is relentlessly bad.
And just when you think it might stop, it doesn't.
It actually gets worse.
It's like there was a point where he lands in the trash truck and then he wakes up in his mansion and I'm like, surely this is the end of the movie. And no, there's like a whole half hour left.
Yeah, we hit that point too. Yeah.
And it's like, if it had ended at that point, I would have been like, okay, that wasn't too long and it was fine. It's not like, that's the thing. I think this movie's worst offense is that it's not like terrible. It's just bad. Yeah. And it's just always bad.
And it's not bad in an interesting way.
Right, like Zardoz.
Funny way. It's just bad.
I mean, except for the fact that you're just like, what actually are you doing? Like, why is there this team of supervillains? Why are there glowing crystals in a vault? Why is there a vault? Why is there a vault that leads to a cave? Why do all the orphans in this orphanage learn a random song? Because that's part of the reason why we are supposed to learn that Hulk Hogan was at this orphanage, is that he knows the song the orphans sing.
Why doesn't the old man from the orphanage ever mention the fact that, you're not Santa?
Yeah, like that never happens until the very end. And then it turns out that like everybody who's been around knew that he was an orphan there many years ago. Also, like, why doesn't he remember that? Because like he says, I grew up in Lakeland at the beginning.
That's
like in the beginning of the movie, he's like, yeah, there's lots of places to hide. I grew up in Lakeland. Oh, I guess at that point it's because he has amnesia. Right. Never mind. He thinks he's literally Santa Claus. Again, something that makes no sense. Also, like, why is Dr. Frost trying to squeeze Lenny? Like, what did Lenny do that Dr. Frost wants to torment him?
Owed some sort of debt. We don't know why.
He owes him money.
Gambling or something.
Why Lenny borrowed money from him? That's a good question.
Why did Lenny borrow money from Dr. Frost? Why is Dr. Frost a trillionaire, apparently a petty loan shark?
That makes no sense.
None of this makes any sense.
I mean, even the ATMs don't make sense.
No, the ATMs don't make any sense. And like, there's the part where an hour and 8 minutes in, Hulk Hogan has a conversation with the experiment doctor villain, and he doesn't like the conversation, so he hangs up and he's ready to go take action. And his sign that he's going to do this, and the way that we know he's had a change of heart, and I guess are supposed to now think of him as a hero, is that he literally crushes and destroys his own cell phone.
Yeah, it was sure a thing that happened.
It's so dumb.
Like, the movie is just every minute or less, there's something like that happens, and you're just like, but why?
Because, Julia, that's the only reason. Because.
For reasons.
They were so preoccupied with what they could do, they didn't think about whether they should. As me bastardizing that line from Jurassic Park, but you get the idea.
So I do have to disagree with Julia on one point.
Oh no.
I don't think this was just relentlessly bad. I think it was genuinely a terrible movie. And when I sat down 10 minutes in, it was just an onslaught of awful. And maybe I'm just, sort of predisposed to hate anything that Hulk Hogan is in because he is a genuinely detestable human being. But I think it's more than that. I mean, let's talk about the outfit that he ends up in halfway through, because Mila Kunis is a seamstress, which she learned from a comic book, I think. I mean, and more power to comic books for teaching children how to sew. That's pretty awesome. But that outfit was literally offensive.
Okay, so basically for our listeners, he shows up in a Santa suit that's the mall Santa Claus costume, which he had like stolen, and then he got amnesia, and then Lenny the elf convinces him he's really actually the real Santa Claus, which, having amnesia and not remembering who he is, he believes he's actually the real Santa Claus, because that's how amnesia works. Not that he's a mall Santa, but that he is literally actually Santa. That goes on for a while, and then he no longer believes it, but still pretends to be Santa. I don't even know.
So he doesn't disappoint the littlest girl, which I believe is what's going on here.
You're trying to impose way too much actual... None of it actually makes any sense, but there is definitely a point where he and Lenny have this conversation where Lenny's like, you're not buying the Santa Claus thing anymore, are you? Like, for a while, for a good 48 hours there, I had you going, you believed you were Santa, but now you don't anymore, do you? And then he eventually, like, gives him back his wallet, and he's like, here you are, Mr. Thorne. It's all there. I didn't take any of the money, which he did.
There are character arcs, That's very nice.
But, like, he goes from wearing this mall Santa suit, which then, like, they give him and Lenny pajamas, but the only pajamas the orphanage has in full-grown man size are a lamb and, like, a bunny costume. So they're in, like, onesies while they sleep in bunk beds in the orphanage, and Mila Kunis steals his Santa suit and somehow cuts the polyester velvet pants into spandex wrestler pants, and then also the velvet Santa jacket into a, like, Santa vest.
Yeah, it's pretty glorious.
So that he can be sleeveless and have, like, also, like, a wrestling belt with it.
And frankly, I was offended enough by the fact that Hulk Hogan was in this, but then I had to, like, actually look at his muscles for the rest of the movie, and it was gross. But none of that is even my dislike. Like, all of that, like, there is just so much to genuinely detest about this movie.
Is your dislike about the cops?
Ooh, that's a topic.
No, it's not even about the cops. Like, at least they're incompetent cops, because, like, I don't want to see cops positively portrayed, because that's bullshit. And these are incompetent cops until the very end. Whatever. Still incompetent for most of the film, and I'm cool with that, although weird in this movie, which is, yay, capitalism still somehow. I don't know. It's all very confusing because this movie makes no sense. I hated everything. There are a couple of genuinely sort of offensive things, like the fact that there is a sumo guard employed by Mr. Frost being played by a white guy, and they have like a, sort of generic sumo wrestler move, and then he does the flying crane kick and beats him somehow. I don't know.
Do you know if that was another wrestler? Because I was wondering.
He was another wrestler. There's actually a few wrestlers in the film that are under the employ.
It was definitely another wrestler, and I don't know if it was it definitely sumo, or because, like, it also
100%. His character's name is actually Sumo Guard, or Sumo, something, Sumo.
Because he had, like, kind of a kung fu movie theme that played whenever he did that move.
Yeah.
And so I was a little bit confused as to what culture we were appropriating.
I mean, Julia, but they were appropriating the Orient.
Yes, exactly.
I can't see the little quote marks I was making with my fingers, but I was making them.
Very big quote marks, but yeah.
Oh,
it's
no,
gross.
we heard that. We definitely heard that.
So he has, like, a Fu Manchu style.
Yeah,
like
hairstyle,
like classic Imperial Fu Manchu image.
It's all really gross.
Yeah, it's definitely just as bad as you would imagine.
But given the truly offensive shit that we've watched over the years, that was actually pretty low level offensive shit comparatively. And I hate to say that, but it really, like...
No, but that's what I mean. Like, this movie didn't make me as angry as the Transformers movie. It was, like, not as racist or as sexist.
Yeah, it was not actually as sexist.
No, it wasn't as sexist. It was fine and all of those things, right? And yet, this movie made me hate everything that was in it somehow. And what I realized partway through while he's at the mall is that I really fucking hated 90s nostalgia all of a sudden. Because what the fuck were we fucking wearing in the 90s? That's all I'm saying. 1996. This movie came out in 1996. There are mall scenes with people from the 90s in a mall, and what the fuck were we wearing? And so I just suddenly realized, like, why do we have any 90s nostalgia? Like, we're sitting here as, like, you know, late Gen Xers, early millennials, whatever, having grown up in the 90s, going, hey, the 90s were pretty cool. We didn't dress terribly back then. And I am here to tell you...
I would like to just interject. I have never once in my life said that the 90s were pretty cool. I lived through them.
Yes, they were awful. They were truly terrible. I am saying this now as a 42-year-old. There's been almost 20 years. We're coming up on 20 years since the 90s. And they fucking must have sucked, because if we were wearing anything that was in that scene, I don't even know what we were doing.
But this is the thing. I don't think that we were. Or maybe, like, everyone was dressed really differently in California, because no one was wearing anything that looked like the people I was friends with dressed.
I don't know.
You know?
Like, I honestly don't remember anymore. All I know is, like, it looked like it was actually filmed in the 80s.
There was not nearly enough flannel.
There wasn't, because there were no teenagers in this movie, so keep that in mind. So, but, like, the whole idea of the 90s, like, obviously, let's go to that ATM machine. It's an ATM machine. Sorry, I am repeating myself. The ATM machine.
Yeah.
The AT machine, like, uses fucking thumbprints instead of a pin. What the fuck is that shit? That doesn't happen.
That wasn't in the fucking
never
90s.
been a
That's
thing.
actually what makes this movie science fiction, instead of just a bad comedy.
That was, like, just straight up only there so that we could have a plot in which Lenny would have any way of trying to steal Hulk Hogan's money from the bank. Because the only way he could do it was by replicating his thumbprint. Hulk Hogan didn't know his own pin. So this is like where they were like actually thinking things through while they were writing this script, and they were like, well, he won't be able to get his pin. So what if we just make the whole ATM only do thumbprints, and then we can do some elaborate thumbprint hijinks, because he could get that, because even if Hulk Hogan didn't know, he'd still have a thumb.
They are so elaborate, people, that it has to be the left thumb. The left fucking thumb. Not just any thumb. No! The left thumb. Because, why? Because they had to throw in this utterly ridiculous subplot of Lenny trying to steal his money out of an AT machine. Which is just like, what the fuck? But no, like, I just came away going, like, there's Hummers, right? Not that type of Hummer, people. Humvee. There's a Humvee, which are still the douchiest vehicle in the history of mankind. But there were a lot of them in the 90s in California. Like, I don't even... So yes, I officially got over any amount of nostalgia that I ever had for anything prior to 2000. It's gone after watching this movie. I just...
The 90s are dead.
The 90s
to us now.
are fucking dead to me. Dead to me. Because they produced this film. So, fuck you, 90s. Fuck you.
Okay, well, sure, fine.
What? It's a perfectly legitimate dislike.
There's some good shit in the 90s.
Not
like,
anymore. Not anymore, Sean.
If you say the music, you're dead to me as well.
No, I fucking hate
Unless you're
90s
talking
music.
metal, because the metal in the 90s was pretty good. Well, and we will note, there was no actual good music in this movie either, so...
None whatsoever. Like, what were they even thinking? I don't never. You know what? I'm done questioning the movie. It's shit. Let's get to our final thoughts and grades.
Yes, master. We shall do thy bidding.
Thank you. We are overtime anyway. Get it done.
All right. Final thoughts for me. Really simple. This movie makes no sense. Every aspect of this movie is infuriatingly stupid. It just gets bizarre and more bizarre. Nothing makes any sense. Hulk Hogan is terrible in almost every sense of the word. I honestly question why anybody decided they should put money behind this, because every single one of them should probably be indicted on crimes of some description. I don't care what it is. At this point, just make them up.
I feel like that's exactly what happened to one of the producers. So,
well, yeah, but he wasn't. He didn't get indicted for this film, Jen. I'm saying that everybody involved in this film,
but he should have been.
He should have been. I mean, it worked out in our favor anyway, but.
You know how sometimes people get Oscars for a movie that isn't very good because they're just like, oh, but they didn't get it for all those other really good movies, so now it's their turn.
Right, that's how his indictment worked.
That's exactly how his indictment worked. People were like, he really should have been over Santa with Muscles, but we'll get him on
the next thing.
Insider trading, tax fraud. I don't know. Just pick something.
That's exactly what should have happened. So to really bring it down to the grade, it's really simple. It's a straight up F. This is fucking awful. It's a terrible movie.
F for fucking awful.
Yeah. All right. Alex, what about you?
So, I agree that this is not a good movie. It's an incoherent mess where half the writers were like snorting coke off a toilet seat, and the other half of the writers had like found the roach ends of some doobies and smoked those, and they were all just waiting for their Taco Bell to arrive. And this is what they came up with while they were waiting. However, I do have to say, just compared to the movies that we watched recently, which number among them, Transylvania 6-5000 and Stan Helsing, I actually found this movie more entertaining than either of those.
What? No.
Plus, this one had Ed Begley Jr. in it, even if he didn't have the good physical comedy, like, single moment that he had in Transylvania 6-5000.
Travis.
I will also say that in the realm of terrible Christmas movies we watched, this is definitely superior to Krampus the Reckoning.
Okay.
For all that it's missing the IKEA cup rack that was the MVP of that film. So, I mean, I'm sorry, please don't hate me, but when I do my comparative, you know, because I always look at it as if some evil madman held a gun to my head and said, well, you can watch, you know, Santa with Muscles again, or say Transylvania 6-5000, which would you choose? I would actually watch Santa with Muscles again, because it felt like it was only 50 years long instead of 5,000 years long.
Fair.
So therefore, fair. I'm actually going to give it a D+.
Jesus.
I think that Alex is being a little bit too generous, but I do largely agree with their point, because honestly, like, when I think about, was it called Next? The Nicolas Cage movie that we all watched for the Worldcon Torture Cinema live recording? When I think about any of the Transformers movies or the Avengers from 1998 or any of, like, Season of the Witch, I would rather watch Santa with Muscles than any of those. And I do maintain that, like, if you took a 7-year-old and you showed them Santa with Muscles and, like, Home Alone, they'd probably be like, those were both pretty good movies.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine it would appeal to the same audience that would like Ernest Saves Christmas.
No.
Yeah, and I feel, no, Ernest Saves Christmas is a better movie. I would 100% always watch Ernest Saves Christmas before this one.
Yes.
It is very bad, but better than this one. But this movie, like, it is bad. It's just disappointingly bad. It's not very good. It's not fun bad. It kind of thinks it might be fun bad, and it tries, but it's like that guy that keeps making bad puns that expects you to laugh at them, and you don't really laugh, but you kind of feel like maybe you should a couple of times, and then maybe like later you end up quoting it even though you don't really like it, because some of the lines are really quotable, and you're probably going to end up at some point being like, "You slay me, Santa." I feel like I have to give it a D-.
That's fair.
Sure.
It's not a straight fail. It's just not good at all. Oh, also it gets a D- for the fact that it really does seem to think that Hulk Hogan belongs in the trash, which is pretty great.
That part is fair. I otherwise think both of you are wrong. This is definitively an F. regardless, I didn't watch Van Helsing though, so I don't actually know how bad that one was.
This movie at least was not trying to be offensive like Stan Helsing.
That's true. And I didn't see the first 10 minutes, so, maybe it's better if I watch the first 10 minutes.
No, it would not. Definitely not.
No. Yeah, 100% not.
Okay, it's worse? Okay, so see, definitely an F. This movie is, I'm gonna go with deplorable, because that's what Hulk Hogan is. And
He probably voted that way.
Oh, I'm 100% certain that he did. I think he's actually said to that effect.
Jesus.
He is a terrible human being, and he made a terrible movie. And I hope that the other people in the movie are not as terrible as him. I'm sure some of them are very nice. Including the man who, I can't remember the character's name right now, but the guy at the orphanage who had the look of Clayton, who just basically looked at Hulk Hogan with the look of what the fuck, and he was all of us.
Yeah, Clayton, the best person in this movie.
Yeah, he is 100% the best person in this movie. Not the best character, just the best person.
No, just the best person, all around person.
Yeah. So no, I fucking hated this movie honestly with a passion by the end of it. I was just fucking mad that I had to watch it. And I don't get that way with most of our torture for cinema films, even if they're like really, really offensive. I don't necessarily hate myself for having seen them, because at least I can say, look, this is really, really racist, and teach someone something with it. Right?
Well, so, I do get very angry when I've had to watch some of the other ones. This one wasn't that racist. He's a terrible person. Yes, none of that really comes out in this movie, though. It's not about that. It doesn't push a pro-white supremacist agenda or anything.
No, it doesn't do any of that. It's just terrible. That's what I'm saying, though, is in a movie that has really offensive things, I can at least in a torture cinema episode be like, look, this is why this is a terrible thing. And I feel like I at least am putting something positive in the world while a very negative thing is out there. With this movie, it's just so fucking terrible, and there's nothing to learn from it except that it should be burned. That's all there is.
Listeners, please don't burn any movies. That's probably going to create a lot of toxins. And if we've learned anything from Greta Thunberg, it's we don't need to be putting more toxins into our air and environment and add to our global warming problem. So don't burn a DVD. Don't burn a TV.
Maybe turn it into performance art or something. Reuse, recycle, reduce movies like this. Just reduce the existence of them. I don't know how you're going to do that. Maybe you can get Thanos and the glove and snap your fingers and just make all of these really bad movies not exist anymore. And I know that would mean I'd never be able to do a torture cinema again, but I'm okay with that. Because it would mean I wouldn't have to watch this movie.
Look.
That would be
nice. We get it, Jen. You didn't like the movie, but also, let's be honest, and we're going to move on to ending this show, but you did not finish the movie, so anything you say, honestly, is invalid. So,
I watched the end. I just didn't watch the beginning.
You didn't finish it. You didn't watch all of this movie, all 130-something minutes of this movie.
Are valid.
Thank you, Alex.
I appreciate your perspective, Alex, but I will strongly disagree because I am firing Jen from this show for this.
Thank fucking God.
Well, Sean, I hate to break it to you, but you're going to be strung up upside down and forced to smell bad things and get electrocuted while watching something on a television on a lawn. Because that's what Jen's going to do to you.
Yep. I bet he likes the smell of farts, though.
Yeah, it's the thing I'm into, Jen. That's totally it. Okay, we're gonna end this shit.
Okay, so what does that make the grade for this movie? It's
I think a F+, maybe.
Is that even a thing?
So it's a D+, a D-, 2 Fs. So it's like a
2 Fs plus a D.
Oh no, maybe a D-. I don't know.
It's not quite an F+.
Yeah.
I think it's just an F because I don't think it raises it enough to actually be even a D-.
Where's Paul when we need him?
I will do the math later because Paul normally does this where he has like an algorithm he has programmed for the last 4 years.
In his brain.
Yeah. I will note that Paul is not here, so we normally do a what would Paul grade this as, and I think Paul would grade this as an F.
I think he would, because when I said I had to take a break in the middle to go out to the post office and do some errands, and I came back and was like, I have to watch the last half hour of this now, like, pray for me. And I'm not religious, but this seemed like the sort of scenario in which I actually would need prayers. And Paul was like, you will need those prayers.
Yeah, so he definitely would give this an F. So
I think Paul would definitely fail this movie.
100%. So, in any case, thank you all for listening. Thanks to our Patreon supporters at patreon.com/SkiffyandFanny for voting for this film. I would say we appreciate it, but we don't, because you selected this film out of your monstrous hearts, and it's just awful. But obviously you can support us in all kinds of ways. So patreon.com is at SkiffyandFanny. You can do that. You can also email us, skiffyandfanny.com or skiffyandfanny@gmail.com. We're on skiffyandfanty.com. We're on Twitter at skiffyandfanty. I don't know, review us on iTunes or whatever. And we have booktube, youtube.com/skiffyandfanty. We have a newsletter, skiffyandfanty.com/newsletter. I've had like
How
4
much have you had
beers.
to drink? Yeah.
I've had like 4 beers right now, so...
Maybe just say goodnight, Sean.
We're in places where you can find us. Say goodnight. Yeah, say goodnight.
So, in any case, I will just say that Hulk Hogan is not my bae. So
okay.
That was awkward.
Yeah, awkward ending, and see.
You're welcome, citizens.
Happy holidays!
Happy holidays, citizens.
Bye!
I want this Santa with muscles out of here!
Jesus. Oh. If you would like to support this show, you can go to patreon.com/SkiffyandFanty or find us on Twitter at SkiffyandFanty, our webpage, SkiffyandFanty.com, or you can even send us an email at SkiffyandFanty@gmail.com. The intro music for this podcast was taken from Rock Thing by Creo. You can find out more about their music on freemusicarchive.org.